All of the major news stories made simple and easy for your listening pleasure. We'll break it down for you in keywords for this segment. We're joined by Adam. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm liking your scarf.
It's not a scarf. It's part of my sweater. Could you imagine?
You have to know that there's a chair with a jacket and there's another mic in the way, and my view is very obscured. But it looks good from this angle.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sweater or scarf or whatever it is.
It's keeping me warm.
Yeah, you look very cozy in there.
Yes. All right. So that's just a reminder for you guys to bundle up on your way out to work this morning. It's frigid out there.
It is a bit chilly, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's, as I was sharing with one of our regulars, Yerika, it's winter. It's kind of expected to be chilly. I don't know why we're surprised each morning. Be prepared.
Yeah, I need my jacket. I just realized it's winter.
Maybe the puffy one. All right, let's jump into keywords news. As always, we try to clarify some of these major headlines for you so you're well informed. This is our first pick of the day.
Vaccine pass mandate.
So there's been a lot of controversy over that vaccine pass mandate for cram schools and other private education facilities like hagwons, for example. The Seoul Administrative Court has decided to suspend that mandate amid complaints from parents and students, and there was a court case, right?
Yeah, so there was a lot of debate over this issue, and a Seoul Administrative Court, as you said the policy seriously disadvantages people who are not vaccinated and limits the rights of unvaccinated people to use such facilities. It added that allowing unvaccinated people into places like cram schools or reading rooms and study cafes would not actually lead to a significant rise in COVID cases. As such, exempting the use of vaccine pass would not really adversely affect public interests. And it cited some figures as well, saying even fully vaccinated people, there's breakthrough infections there, and the infection rate isn't that different.
From the court's perspective, it is about, actually proving the causal relationship, right? Does unvaccinated students in this case, does it result in higher hospitalization? And the court ruled that's just not true, according to stats they've compiled.
Exactly. So those are the that is the data that they cited in Tuesday's decision. And this decision came after parents and relevant industries filed a complaint against the government's mandate. So there has been some backlash over it. Now, the ruling suspends the use of vaccine pass at these study places until a judgment on the merits of the case has been reached. So it's not final at the moment. It's just something that is pending at the moment. The Health Ministry said the mandate should be expanded to protect unvaccinated people and reduce the number of critically ill patients. So it's still adamant that it should be implemented. And it said it will decide whether to appeal against the injunction. But of course, if it does again, then of course there'll be more backlash and more criticisms from the parents, and they'll probably file an appeal for an appeal to an appeal. And
it just sounds like a really lengthy process, doesn't it?
Court battles usually are, though, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
And all the meanwhile, where do students and their parents and the hagwon owners stand if they decide to operate without the approval? What kind of consequences will come about? And it just sounds really messy for the time being.
It does. It's a bit messy, yeah.
All right. The question that they have to answer is, of course, are there grounds to actually deny access to these kinds of facilities for those who are unvaccinated? Let's move on to a global outlook of COVID-19. This is our second keyword of the day.
COVID crisis.
So Europe continues to see a surge in COVID cases, with the UK, France, and Italy all emerging as hotspots. What's the latest, Adam?
Yeah, so let's start off with the UK. It reported more than 218,000 new infections. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, however, said the country would ride out, in his words, the Omicron wave with no new restrictions. Johnson, however, said that the weeks ahead would be challenging, with some services being disrupted by staff absences. But for England, the Prime Minister said he would be recommending to his cabinet that Plan B restrictions, as it's known, remain in place. This includes working from home where possible. And in the meantime, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have all introduced further restrictions on leisure activities and going out to, pubs and cafes. Moving over to France, more than 270,000 new cases were reported. That's the highest recorded to date. French lawmakers are debating draft legislation that would require most people to be vaccinated against COVID-19 before entering public spaces. So it's pretty much a mandate, and it would be this bill would make it compulsory or mandatory for people to show proof of being vaccinated, not even a negative test, to access public venues and transport. So vaccination is the key there.
Sure.
So if you have a negative test, it won't count. That's if the bill is passed, of course. Also in France, they have discovered a new strain of COVID-19 that's tentatively being dubbed variant IHU, and it's believed to have been originated from Cameroon. The index case being from someone who visited the African country in November. And it reportedly carries 46 new mutations and has been found in a dozen patients in the south of the country. So there are a lot of eyes on that, but still it's early days to kind of make any assumptions on it.
Because there's still not enough evidence for us to conclude that it has spread outside the region. If it is massive, then we'll give it a Greek letter and make it a variant of concern, right?
There's no evidence that it has gone out of the country, but of course... It's the same kind of repertoire with these new variants, right? Early data, we keep a close eye on it. If it spreads to other countries and it's looking to be a bit concerning, then of course the WHO and other relevant health institutions will look into it and more closely.
All right, so let's move on to Italy.
Yeah, Italy not doing so well either. It reported a record of nearly 171,000 new cases on Tuesday. The daily tally of COVID-related deaths also rose to 256 from 140. So the number of critically ill patients is also rising, so that's kind of expected to raise that death toll even further as well, unfortunately.
It's kind of a blatant reminder that we're not even close to being out of the woods, huh?
Right. I mean, we shouldn't just look at things, the figures here in Korea. I mean, the rest of the world is still suffering with this pandemic, of course. So, yeah.
And we haven't even discussed the countries that lack wide access to vaccination. And so that's the new year, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Staying on the topic, let's move on to our third keyword of the day.
Omicron less severe.
However, the WHO says the Omicron variant produces milder symptoms, and this was the hope with more vaccination, right? Run us through the assessment.
Yeah, so the WHO said the Omicron variant targets the upper respiratory tract, which causes mild COVID-19 symptoms compared to previous variants. This is why COVID-19 case numbers are high, but hospitalizations are low, globally speaking. The WHO stresses, however, that more research needs to be done. It's still early days for the Omicron variant as well, actually. There's still a lot we don't know about it. According to the New York Times, recent research suggests that they cause less damage to the lungs. The variant appears to be hitting the nose, throat and windpipe, hence the upper respiratory tract, which has led to fewer symptoms. So you might get a blocked nose or a sore throat and a runny nose and things like that.
Looks and sounds like a cold.
Right, exactly. And previous COVID-19 variants targeted the lungs, so actually respiratory organs, which cause shortness of breath and coughing and a bit more severe symptoms as well, because of course they are targeting those organs. That said, some research suggests that the Omicron variant can evade vaccines and cause severe illness among the unvaccinated as well. So there are risks. Not everyone is safe from it. Experts still recommend getting a vaccine and also a booster shot to stay safe.
All right, on to our fourth keyword of the day.
Coal export ban.
So we discussed this with Adam yesterday. The Korean government has downplayed concerns over Indonesia's coal export ban, saying that we'd have sufficient supply for South Korea, but some concerns still remain.
Yeah, so this is a repeat of what I said yesterday, but the short-term impact of the ban is expected to be limited. There is enough stockpile and imports from other countries are still coming. There's no hindrance to that. Also, scheduled cargoes from Indonesia for January this month have either been loaded or shipped already as well. So there are some deals from Indonesia that are still valid and in place, but there are possible repercussions that need to be closely watched.
Like what?
Seoul says it is necessary to monitor price increases in case of an international competition for coal supply, which we're actually already starting to see a little bit, as well as its impact on the power market balance in China and India. And as I mentioned, we're kind of seeing that kind of price increase because coal prices have started to rise skies already. This means staying warm during winter could get a bit more expensive, unfortunately. Experts say that such actions by coal exporters this year would impact power or steel-making industries as well for the longer term. So there's a lot of POSCO, for example, in Korea, a major steel producer, could be affected by it. But the Indonesian President Joko Widodo has asked coal and liquefied natural gas producers in the country there to give priority to domestic market demand over exports or else face sanctions. So quite a stark warning there. One of those sanctions being their business permit being revoked. But there is a silver lining a little bit. Indonesia has secured an extra 7.5 million tons of coal supplies. That helps to avert power outages and boost stocks and could increase the chances of the government lifting its export ban soon as well.
All right, moving on to our fifth keyword of the day.
Foreign investment.
So some promising economic news as Korea seems to be attracting a lot of foreign investors. What's the latest?
Yeah, so foreign direct investment, or FDI as it's known in short, in free economic zones across the country rose 43% last year from the previous year. It's actually the first time in 3 years that the figure marked an on-year growth. Now, the country has designated 9 FEZs, these free economic zones, across the country since 2003. So by offering tax incentives and ease regulations and cutting red tape for foreign firms. Government data shows that registered FDI pledges in the FEZs totaled $1.3 billion. The amount of investment that was actually made last year more than doubled as well from a year earlier to $840 million. The cumulative FDI has reached $20.5 billion since the FEZs were introduced. The feat is meaningful considering the unfavorable conditions that we're living in now and the reshaping in the global supply chain, especially amid the US-China tensions as well. Now, looking into the segments, the manufacturing sector, including bio and metal, went up nearly 20%. The service segment, which includes logistics and R&D as well, saw the amount jump nearly 65%.
All right, and on to our last keyword of the day.
Return to North.
The UN says it hopes to see its overseas staff return to North Korea as early as possible following the lifting of movement restrictions. It's pointing out the North actually needs the manpower.
Yeah, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs it said it's crucial that international staff return to the North to have access to project implementation sites and initiate capacity building activities that have been stalled since 2020. That's a direct quote from an official there. It also said the regime needs people to help supplies come into the country as well, possibly vaccines. UN member states have agreed not to publish, though, their North Korea support plan due to the lack of access to new verifiable data. Of course, it's a very closed-off hermit kingdom, so there's not a lot of information that's available. But the UN office noted that it is still planning for humanitarian cooperation in the North this year in line with its global guidelines, and it's said to be in communication with the relevant counterparts over in the regime. Meanwhile, COVAX and the Gavi, which are both global vaccine initiatives, are also continuing, apparently, their dialogue with the North on possible vaccine delivery, although nothing's been confirmed yet.
All right. Thank you very much, Arirang, for today's coverage. Do stay warm.
You too.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.